Hello, I'm Ken Arscott, your narrator. This training video is for armed and unarmed security officers and is probably the most important training session that you will ever take. Why? Because it's about your personal safety. This training video is about taking safety precautions, using safety techniques, recognizing hazardous circumstances, and knowing some basic defensive tactics. Everyone considers their personal safety important. It is no different for security officers. Most training instructors teach that the primary duty of a security officer is to observe, report, and protect. They're right, but there is another element that they sometimes forget, and that is security officer safety, such as how to react in a confrontation. What are the danger signs to look for? How to prevent an argument from getting violent. What to do when someone becomes violent. How do you respond? Depends on the level of the threat at the time. Okay, let's begin. When people see a security officer, they immediately pass judgment. Most people welcome the security officer's presence. And then there are those that want to commit a crime. They think, uh-oh, I better watch my step. Or, I can't steal now because I'm being watched. Most people don't go around thinking about worst-case scenarios. That's not the case for security officers. Security officers have to be constantly thinking about what's coming up next. They have to be prepared for the worst-case scenario. When you come upon a situation where people are arguing, or worse, getting ready to be physical, always try to verbally resolve the issue first. I'll get into some techniques on how to do that a little bit later. You need to know how to evaluate various situations. But first, let's talk about your limits and comfort zones. For most people, a comfort zone is that immediate area around them. It's usually about an arm's length away. When a stranger steps into that, they immediately start to feel uncomfortable. As a security officer, your comfort zone should be 2 arm lengths. The extra distance will give you more time to react if attacked. You see, when you're talking to a stranger, you don't know if they're friendly or not, so always be prepared for the unexpected. It may never happen, but it doesn't hurt to be prepared. Never stand up to someone face-to-face with your feet parallel to the person. Your body should be at a slight angle. Place your feet slightly wider than your shoulder width, then move your strong leg back about 10 to 12 inches. Your arms should be at your sides, elbows slightly bent. You should look casual to them. Don't make it look like you're in a karate stance ready to fight. If you have to turn or move, do it discreetly and cautiously. For example, if you have to move forward, casually slide your weak leg first, followed by your strong leg. If you have to back up, casually move your weak leg back, followed by your strong leg. Always make sure that there's room behind you so you can maneuver if necessary. If they lunge at you, quickly pivot on your weak leg so that your strong leg is still controlling your balance. Chances are the subject will miss you, giving you time to respond, regardless whether the person is a male or female and does not look threatening. Use the cautious stance. If someone starts moving into your comfort zone, it may be that they just feel uncomfortable standing so far away. If they look and act friendly, you might want to allow them to get a little bit closer, but never closer than an arm's length. Now, if they keep moving in, that could be the beginning of a physical threat. Politely put your hand up to signal them to stop. A word of caution though, the average time to set up a defense is 1.5 seconds, so stay alert and be prepared. How about the safety of the posts you're assigned to? Since all posts are not the same, neither are the job descriptions. It could be in a city, a town, or a rural area. What types of crimes are in the immediate area? High crime areas usually require aggressive patrolling, whereas low crime areas usually get by with less aggressive patrols. Why is that important? Let's say you're in the Everglades standing on a riverbank and you need to get to the other side. Without thinking, you jump in and start to swim across. Halfway across the river, you're attacked by alligators. Now, let's do it again. You're at the riverbank, only this time you ask one of the locals if the river is safe to cross. You're told that the river has alligators in it. Obviously, you're not going to swim, so you get a boat and cross the river safely. How does that apply to patrolling? What kind of criminal activity? How about the surrounding neighborhood? Is it a high crime area? Are there vagrants hanging around? Are there gangs? Are there drive-by shootings? You need to know all of these things and more so you don't get attacked by the alligators. The quickest way to find out about those dangers is to ask your supervisor and the experienced officers who also work there. Once you have a better understanding, that will help determine what defensive equipment you need to carry. Let's look at some defensive equipment that you might need. Obviously, before you carry any of these defensive weapons, you should be properly trained. Handgun, baton, asp, pepper spray, handcuffs, taser, body armor. Flashlight. Although a flashlight is technically not considered a defensive weapon, if you are attacked and that's all you have, use it as a defensive weapon. By the way, always carry a flashlight day and night. What if you have to go into a building? Think about it. There's no sunshine in basements. Most defensive gear should be carried on your duty belt for quick access and control. Driving a patrol car is obviously a safety concern. Before you get behind the wheel, make sure you check the vehicle's tires and the windshield visibility. In other words, check it inside and out. And of course, don't forget to put on your seatbelt. Whether it's the company's cell phone or yours, it should only be used for business such as checking on and off duty, receiving assignments, and requesting assistance. There should be no texting, playing video games, or music. Whenever possible, use a Bluetooth earplug so that you can still hear what's going on around you. Speaking of earplugs, again, never listen to music using earplugs. Not only is it probably a violation of your company's regulations, but you won't be able to hear anything around you. Remember that second and a half I talked about. When people hear the phrase fight or flight, they immediately think of, do I start fighting or do I run away? Actually, that's not exactly what it means. There are actually several levels regarding the fight and flight process. For example, the fight option doesn't necessarily mean that they actually want to fist fight. It could just mean that the person wants to stand there and argue. The flight option also doesn't necessarily mean to run away. It could mean that they just don't want to get into any confrontation and they just wanted to avoid the situation. Always try to eliminate a person's fight option. When you're confronted with a disagreeable or potentially violent person, use your verbal skills first to calm them down. If that doesn't work and they become even more aggressive, you may have to defend yourself. Remember, you have less than a second and a half to set up your defense before an attack. And hopefully, you're in the cautious stance. Fear is what motivates fight or flight. Everyone gets afraid sooner or later. It's just a normal human characteristic. Fear can be mild or strong. Depending on the level of fear, it has an effect on a person's reaction time. As a security officer, when you sense fear coming on, don't let it. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but do everything you can to keep it away. Say to yourself, I'm not afraid. I can handle this. Most of the time, it will help you calm down. If you're in a verbal confrontation with someone who looks threatening, try not to show fear. Straighten up, shoulders back, head up, and don't make any facial expressions that would indicate fear. Most of the time, when the other person sees that, they will think that you're not afraid and will usually start to calm down. But if it doesn't, be sure that you're in that cautious stand in case you have to defend yourself. I'll be going over some techniques on how to defend yourself shortly, but for now, let's keep going with the visual reading. Body and facial expressions can be voluntary or involuntary. Let's take a look. Body language is actually a silent communication. Most of the time, people don't even know that they're displaying negative body language. That's because it happens subconsciously and is almost always uncontrollable. There are numerous facial expressions, such as furrowing the eyebrows, tightening their lips, squinting their eyes, looking up in the air, looking down at the ground, etc. A person's tone of voice is another form of communication. If their voice becomes shaky, high-pitched, or they start talking loud, those are all indications that someone may be getting ready to lose their temper. When questioning someone who you think is lying, but they don't show any negative facial expressions, they're clearly showing negative body language. Remember, negative body language is subconscious and uncontrollable. It's easier to control facial expressions than body language. As I said earlier, when someone displays negative expressions, they're sending you a signal that they're upset. If that happens, try to take advantage of it. You might want to tell them that you know they're getting ready to lose their temper. You might say something like, "You look like you're about to lose your temper, and so far you haven't broken any laws. But if you get physical, you're going to be arrested. Let's all calm down so we can fix it." When you say, "Let's all calm down," it signals to them that you're sharing responsibility, even though you're actually not. Most of the time that works, or at least they become less difficult. If they calm down, that's a good sign, but you still don't want to drop your guard. Stay alert and remain in the cautious stance just in case they start up again. If no matter what you say, they're not calming down and might get physical, get your mind and body ready to be defensively combative. Then, if they do become physical, you have the element of surprise on your side. Some of the ways that you can do that, I'll explain shortly. Signs of submission is not the same for everyone. That's because reactions are based on personality and temperament. Some will say things like, "Okay, I give up." Others will show submission through body language. Showing the universal hand sign for, "Okay, you win," by putting their hands up in front of them or giving you the thumbs up with a smile. There are several others, but I'm sure you get the point. Once they calm down, don't scold or criticize. It will only start things up again. Some people are able to hide their negative facial expressions and body language, especially seasoned criminals. So never drop your guard or become complacent. Remain in the cautious stance. You'll never know who you're dealing with. Never start your patrols at the same time and use the same routes. I'm sure your instructors and supervisors taught you this, so no one will be able to know when you're coming. That's very good advice, but there's more to it, and perhaps the most important reason is your personal safety. What if somebody wants to harm you? Since you're patrolling at the same pattern, they'll know exactly where and when to wait for you. So staggering patrols is another safety technique. This is not a self-defense video. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is an officer safety training video. It's not a self-defense training session, but I would be remiss if I didn't go over at least some basic self-defense tactic. Know your limitations. Don't be tempted to act the hero and confront a dangerous individual alone, even if you're sure you'll win. Think about the consequences before you take action. Ask yourself, will I be able to control this individual if he gets physical? If your answer is yes, you're making a big mistake. Why? Size doesn't matter. Never underestimate anyone, big or small. What if they had training in martial arts? Or what if they land a lucky punch causing you serious harm? Or worse, they're armed. Now, that doesn't mean you can't defend yourself if attacked. It just means don't take people up on the dare. Only defend yourself if you're attacked. Stick with the verbal persuasions techniques and you'll be much better off. If you're attacked and equipped with pepper spray, use it only as a last resort. If you don't have pepper spray, use your baton or asp, which are both defensive weapons, and use them to defend yourself when everything else fails. Most people when fighting will always try to protect their face. So don't go for the face. Use the baton to hit them in any area where the skin is closest to the bone. The hands, elbows, shins, ankles, knees. Why? Just think about the time you accidentally hit your shin hard on something solid like a low table. Remember how excruciating the pain was? You probably had to sit down and hold it until the pain went away. Now, imagine the pain your baton would cause. It's all over, big guy or small guy. Best part is that none of those techniques are life-threatening. You might be thinking, what about the skull? The skin is close to the bone there too. Why not hit it? Well, there are several reasons not to hit the skull. The main reason is if you hit them in the temple, it could be fatal. The other reason is that most of the time, it will not have the same effect as hitting the shin bone. When someone gets hit in the head with a baton, it will cause the skin to break and a lot of blood will start flowing. And now you have an even worse problem, so stay away from the head. If you don't have pepper spray or a baton, use your feet and fists to kick or punch them in the groin, rib cage, kidneys, kick the shins, or stomp on their feet. Most of the time, it will have the same effect as the baton hitting the shin. If you're ever confronted with someone who's high on PCP, almost none of what I just said will matter. It's not unusual for someone high on PCP to have 10 times their normal strength, plus they will feel little or no pain. So, unless it's a life or death situation, don't try to restrain them by yourself. Always call for additional help, including the police. Here again, this is not a fire safety training video, but fire is definitely a safety factor to consider. When a fire breaks out in a building, the security officer on duty either discovers it, making them the first on the scene, or the first one people tell. Being first on the scene of a fire puts the officer in danger. It places a tremendous responsibility on them. Even though the alarm system is ringing, call 911 anyway. It may just be an internal fire alarm bell. If you can help people escape the building without putting yourself in harm's way. If you're near the fire, get down low to the floor where there is less smoke. Don't get too far into the building, cutting off your exit. Let the fire department make the rescue. If it's a small fire, call 911. If you know how to use a fire extinguisher, try to safely put it out. Patrolling is probably when security officers are the most vulnerable. Here are a few techniques to consider. Posts with buildings almost always require exterior patrols. When doing an exterior patrol, always stay a few feet from the wall to protect you on that side. Don't just look straight ahead. Look up once in a while and look behind once in a while as you progress to the corner. The corner of buildings pose a unique threat. When you get about 15 feet from the corner, move away from the wall about 10 to 15 feet and make a wide sweep around the corner in case a bad guy is hiding around the other side. If you patrol with your hands in your pockets, you're putting yourself at a big disadvantage if attacked. Remember what I said, you only have less than a second and a half to set up a defense. Regarding pockets, let me give you another tip. Don't carry a noisy ring of keys, a lot of loose change, or candy Tic Tacs in your pocket. The noise that they make will alert everyone that you're coming. Don't walk around carrying objects in your hand, like your cell phone or a cup of coffee. If you're suddenly attacked, you'll have to drop what you have in your hands to defend yourself. It's no problem if it's a cup of coffee, but what if it's your cell phone that costs you hundreds of dollars? You'll probably think twice before dropping it, using up that second and a half. If you have to carry a cell phone, always keep it either in your pocket or in a belt holster. You don't need any unexpected loud ringtone distractions while patrolling. It's also a good idea to put it on vibrate. If you're assigned to a traffic patrol or parking enforcement assignment, always wear a high visibility vest and carry a traffic wand if available. Never back up without looking first. You never know what the traffic is doing behind you. All right, let's do a little recapping. Never take anything for granted. Know what your authority is. Protect your comfort zone. Don't ignore negative body language. Look for negative facial expressions. Don't let your guard down. Stay alert. Always think ahead. Never make assumptions. Get the facts first. Don't get lazy. Expect the unexpected. Don't take unnecessary risks. Wear body armor. Secure and control your weapons. Always report the unusual. Don't take shortcuts. Follow your company's policies and procedures. As I said in the beginning, a security officer's primary job is to observe, report, protect, and always keep your personal safety in mind.